Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. We have a question today from Paul Myers that he sent into customer service. And Paul says, Serge, should the club be set up square to your hands at setup, or should the hands be set forward of the club head at setup? One instructor teaches that the clubs were designed with a natural forward angle. What is your slant on this idea? In all your instructions, you have not mentioned the subject to my knowledge. This would de-loft the club slightly if you return to the same hands forward position at impact. I have heard square to square and hands forward both. Which is correct? Okay, I think to make any statement or talk about this forward hands position, I think we have to look at what the Peak Performance setup says is the correct way to be addressing a golf ball. We want the hands slightly forward. Notice at address, or just standing up, the vast majority of human beings, your hands will be somewhat turned inward so that they come to the middle like this, and then you can straighten them up to get in a prayer position. But they are turned inward a little bit. All right, so in the Peak Performance golf swing, in our setup, in our assuming the grip, we go a little contrary to what most golfers teach. Right now I'm trying to get this in a dead straight line to the camera, okay? Now, most people are taught that you want to take the golf club at address, say up about waist high, and you want the club pointing at your belt buckle, which would be basically 90 degrees straight out from you. Now, to do that, notice how my hand is pointed this way. To grip the club, I now have to go that way and put my hand on it, and then they tell you they want you to keep your thumb on top at this angle, and I'm automatically creating a cup in my forward wrist. All right? We don't want a cup, we want it relatively flat. So then when I put this hand on, and we come back down to the ball, I've got a cup already built in there. And basically this V of my forward hand, my top hand, on the golf club, or forward hand, for me, left-handed arm, will be relatively, with the cup, the thumb will be pretty much pointing at the golf ball. From there, that means you have to come, and in your rotation, you're going to have a rotation, and very likely, instead of just the whole arm rotating, you're going to have the wrist probably breaking a little bit. We don't do it that way. The way we do it is we want to maintain this inward angle at address. So what we do is if you take the club with your right hand, instead of having it pointing at your belt buckle, we want it slightly pointing at your left hip over here. So this way, and so when I hand my club to myself like this, all I do is I come in here, it's at 90 degrees and it points right over to the hip, and then I just slide my left hand right up on the club and get the grip, and I have my thumb at 1 o'clock. And why do we want the thumb at 1 o'clock? Well, because if you're standing here, where's your thumb? It's in a straight line straight up your forearm. If you go and do this to it, now the thumb is not up the forearm, so the hands and all of these muscles right here are not in dynamic balance. Dynamic balance means all the muscles in the opposing groups are the same length. As soon as I do this, what do I have? I've stretched that muscle and reduced this on both the upper and the lower group of muscles. When I stay like this and just come up this way, they're all the same length. So the hand is in dynamic balance. So I take the club in my right hand, I just kind of cock it a little towards here. My left hand slides up on, thumb goes at 1 o'clock, and when I come down, you can see my thumb is pointing straight up my forearm. So consequently now, when I put my bottom hand, my right hand on it, and my right hand the thumb goes over to the outside of the club. So in other words, if I'm looking at this club and there's a clock here, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock at the bottom, 12 at the top, I'm over here at about 1 to 2 o'clock with this hand. So with this thumb, the left thumb, and now my right thumb goes to 10 or 11 o'clock on the other side, pincer, like, so to speak, if I was triggering a pistol. All right? Or in a lot like how people fish. When they fish, you cast. And a lot of times when I'm having people with bad grips and everything else, I say, take your club. Do you fish? Yes. Just hold the club in your right hand and let's look at it. And they're all holding it like this. They're not ever holding it like this or like that. They're all right straight on top. And then I said, then look what you're doing. You got the fishing pole handle just right here in between those fingers. You're not letting it flop back and forth. You're just holding it right in there, and so boom. And there's no wrist cock when you do this. You're not cocking your wrist and doing that. You're coming straight back and through. You're maintaining all that angle right there, and you cast. Well, that's where we're going to swing a golf club. So now, once I've handed it towards with the shaft pointing here, and I come down and I address the ball. We're going to call the ball is sitting on this white bar on the plane, the alignment arrow there. I come down And what you want to see is if your hand's a little bit forward, this V will be in a straight line, to the ball. If I grip this club properly, that V is in a straight line. Now, too much shaft lean would have it way out here. And I think that's what our question was alluring to. There's a lot of talk about what we call forward shaft lean. There's a club on the market right now that's got rounded edges, and they want a lot of forward shaft lean and have you really coming down with the hands ahead. And yes, like the question asked, would that be de-lofting the club? Yes. Could very likely be closing the club face too. And when you're doing that thing, what are you doing? You are hitting down on the ball. And what do we in Peak Performance Golf Swing do? We swing up. We want shallow divots. We want to tear the grass out of the ground. We want to nip the ball off the ground. We want the club more ricocheting off the ground, not digging into it. All right? And so we're sort of what we call pinchers. We tear the grass out. Don't dig it out. As Mo Norman said, take bacon strips, not pork chops. We want to save our wrists, and we want to just, and this gives us better height, and it preserves the loft of the club more. And at impact, when we finally come back at impact, even if the hands were slightly ahead, it's a nanosecond where the club is moving faster, so fast to the hand, it just goes right by it. So in most cases, the best thing you could actually think of is that there's possibly a tie there at impact. But we do not want a lot of forward shaft lean, because that means you are going to be hitting the ball really low, hitting some really low bullets that will have a very poor possibility of staying on the green, because those bullets just hit and run and just bounce like rockets. They just, boom, you got the ball skipping off the green. So this is a really good question, and it's again, just go back to the Peak Performance Manual and go back to what we talk about with this position right here, gripping the club. I've just told you a lot of things you're only going to hear here in daily lessons and hear and read in Peak Performance and Swing Surgeon videos and manuals. Because again, as I said, most people are taught to grip the club in line here, which automatically creates the cup. So, point it at the hip, slide your hands up, your top thumb to the opposite side. The thumbs are always on opposite sides of where they're at. And then from there, you just come down and always feel like the V in this hand is lined up straight with the ball. And you'll be in a good starting position to just start the club away, toe up into the catcher's mitt and up the tree and get back to square at impact, hit the ball more solid, straight, and controlled. And that's how you shoot those lower scores. That's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.